Good morning. For those of you who don't know me or don't recognize me in formal attire, my name is Scott Butler, and my family and I have been attending here at the Abbey since around the end of the pandemic. Sure, we couldn't remember. So when Reverend Deb asked me to talk about celebrations around military promotions and retirements as part of the Lenten schedule, I was really excited and volunteered right away. But then some stuff kind of happened, and we decided to, attack Venezuela and Iran. And I got a little nervous, so I touched base to see if she'd rather fill my slot with something less incendiary, maybe, than the military. But she said something that I thought was pretty wise, and she said that the congregation here would be able to discern between all the hard work that our military put in on a day-to-day basis and the decisions of the current administration. So I pressed forward. And if you're wondering why she chose me to talk about military promotions and retirements, I served for 20 years in the Air Force as an enlisted member, and I retired in 2014. So I've been promoted a couple of times, I've seen a bunch of these things, and then I actually retired. So I'm like a subject matter expert. So promotion ceremonies, at least for enlisted people, are often big events. They shoehorn all of these people into like a ballroom, and they have them all dressed in their best uniforms. And it's a big event. They present the flags, they do a prisoner of war, missing in action ceremony where they have the table for the people that can't be there. There's a prayer, leadership says a few words, and then they start promoting all these people according to rank, lowest to highest. They come up and they get their new rank and a certificate from leadership, and then they go back to their seats. And while they're doing that, their units are celebrating them. They're cheering out their squadron slogan. My squadron's changed over time, but the favorite one that we had was, "If you got it, we bought it." Some background, I'm an acquisitions professional, so I buy things for a living. And so this ceremony itself, it focuses on that service member's singular achievement, that promotion, but it serves multiple purposes. The first is to honor that effort that they put in to get promoted. Military members are expected to live up to these very high standards, and it means a lot of things. It means studying for promotion. It means volunteering on and off base. It means pursuing higher education, staying fit, running lots and lots, and making sure that the mission gets done, whether they're here stateside or somewhere far away. And then the second purpose is to remind the service member that now we expect more of you. You have this new rank, and with that comes new responsibilities, and that can come in the form of more challenging work or additional duties. I mentioned earlier, my least favorite one of all time was urinalysis monitor. If you come to somebody's desk and tell them they have to go pee in a cup, you're not their favorite person. And there's a whole, never mind. If you want to know more about that, I can tell you later. And then you also get the opportunity to supervise others, which is also not my favorite thing. Because I'm not a people person. So regardless. The third purpose is to boost what is called esprit de corps. It's this fellowship, being part of something larger than you are as an individual to achieve a goal that you could never achieve as an individual. And for most service members, you're stationed away from your family. So the people you work with day to day, they become your found family. They're there for you for all of the things in life that your family would normally be there for. And so they want to be there to celebrate your success, often with cake and a friendly tap on the arm, tap, to make sure that your new rank doesn't fall off. That's the intent. It's not like abuse much. So all that to say, it's very focused on that singular event. And then the military retirement, it's about all those other things, but it's different. It's more intimate. It's about one service member's career. It is about celebrating their efforts and taking on new roles as a civilian and boosting esprit de corps, but it's more than that. You may not know this, but in the military, you don't have to have a retirement ceremony, at least in the Air Force. It's the service member's option. So you can say, no thanks, I just want to quietly, as I throw my papers, you can just quietly transition out of the Air Force. However, that was never in the plans for me. My mentor, her name is, or at the time she was Chief Master Sergeant Minky Kirkpatrick. She's retired. But before that, she once told me that while it is an option to not have a ceremony, that doing so was my duty. And she said that retiring service members have a responsibility to provide young service members with the inspiration to believe they can also achieve a successful career with effort, right? And additionally, it's a chance to honor all the people who care about you, recognizing the hours that your supervisor poured into your career and the sacrifices your family made while you were doing all of those things to get promoted while you were far away. And she ended that particular mentoring sessions by saying, so don't be selfish or I'll find out and come knock some sense into your head until you agree to have one. So I took that to heart, and for my retirement ceremony, I personalized it to do just what the chief told me to do and not to just avoid getting hit on the head. So everything started like the promotion ceremony I told you about. They presented the flags, and there was a prayer. But it wasn't a military chaplain. They allowed me to bring in my own pinch hitter professional. But then it changed a little bit. We had an honor guard fold the flag from my father's military funeral and present it to me. Which they then put into a shadow box commemorating my career. So it has all my medals and ranks and everything, but that is on top. Then they went on to recognize my friends and family who came in from out of town. Sorry, I'm all choked up here. They gave my children challenge coins. I don't know if you've seen them. It's a coin, but it has like a military unit information on both sides, and they were limited edition. So my kids thought it was pretty cool because nobody else had them. Then, as a formal part of the ceremony, my wife was presented with flowers and a letter from the president thanking her for her years of commitment. Then my commander got up and said some nice things about me and my career, which was disarming. And so my words that followed after that were kind of a mumbled mess, kind of like, no. And she presented me with a career-ending medal. And then they read my retirement orders, which was kind of surreal because you don't really think about that as you're going through time, that 20 years goes by so fast. And then I said some words trying to honor those people who poured into me and gave some advice to the people who were coming after. I gave some gifts to my children. I cried. And then we had cake, because it's a thing. So thank you all for listening and being here. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
I want to invite you to hear this story from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19. Listen with me for a phrase or a feeling or an emotion. I would invite you to feel. He entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man named Zacchaeus, he was the chief tax collector and was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd, he could not, because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree, because he was going to pass that way. And when Jesus came to that place, he looked down and he said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. And so he hurried down and was happy to welcome him. All who saw it began to grumble and say, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much. And then Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the word of God in us, with us, and through us. Thanks be to God. Those of you who have been here a while are probably like, oh my gosh, again? With the Zacchaeus? We know. It's not just because it's one of the rare occasions when the Bible mentions someone is vertically challenged. It is because this is the one time Jesus says, today salvation has come to this house. And I just can't remind us of that enough. Because we live surrounded by narratives and loud voices about salvation. This work of being saved. And maybe if you were in a parachurch ministry in the late 90s and early 2000s, you too would have been encouraged to try and save people with the use of a pamphlet and a prayer, and maybe in matching t-shirts. But the only time Jesus talks about salvation, today salvation has come, today you are saved, he doesn't say to Zacchaeus, you have to invite me into your heart as your Lord and Savior. He doesn't say to Zacchaeus, I need you to read this particular prayer. This is the key that unlocks everything. They spend time together. They gather, they celebrate, they party. No matter how tall or short anybody is, they are all gathered. And then Zacchaeus is changed. Zacchaeus decides to give half of everything he owns away. And then he decides to return or repatriate what he has taken wrongfully from folks as a tax collector. Zacchaeus isn't the first tax collector that Jesus parties with. Also, I do love that Jesus is like, you in the tree, I'm coming to your house, you're throwing a party, get out the ham, everything's ready. Sorry, ham would be at my mom's house. Like, there's always one in the freezer, right? Like, a party can be made instantly if you have the right storage solutions. So here they are, partying. And it's not Jesus' first party with a tax collector. Earlier in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus parties with a tax collector named Levi. He also parties with Levi in the Gospel of Mark, but in the Gospel of Matthew, the tax collector is not named Levi, it's named Matthew. So, mystery. Maybe Levi's his middle name or his formal name, I don't know. Jesus is hanging out with tax collectors all the time, and it's not an accident, and it's not easy. This work of being a tax collector is being in a space of colluding with a powerful empire who doesn't want the well-being of your neighbors, of your kinspeople, of your family, of your friends. And the Roman tax code was set up to disadvantage folks in agricultural work. The taxes were due at just the wrong time. If you read the book, The Politics of Jesus by Aubrey Hendricks, you can find the details of this, how it drew people into poverty, how it required people to go into debt to pay their taxes because their crops had not yet come in. And you go into debt to pay your taxes, and then what if the weather doesn't work out and your crops don't come in, and then you are pressed into debt servitude, or hard decisions about who in your family will go in service or slavement because of this debt. It is no wonder that people didn't want to spend time with tax collectors. They don't really have any other mechanism to stop this other than social pressure and social shame. And so Jesus threads this complicated needle all the time. And it's not just with tax collectors, it is with all kinds of folks. He has a meal with Simon the leper in Bethany, which I don't know if you've heard, but people were not supposed to hang out with lepers. And at this meal, at least in the Gospel of Mark and Matthew, there's a woman who comes in and anoints Jesus, like double problem. 2 strikes, Jesus. Folks who were considered unwell or unclean or some kind of danger to the community had to announce themselves in advance. Whether it was folks with a skin disease or folks with some kind of other struggle, like the bent-over woman who reaches for Jesus' cloak and her hemorrhaging stops. Jesus keeps these folks close who have been pressed to the margins for whatever reason. In the Gospel of Mark, similar to the Gospel of Luke and Matthew, when Jesus calls Levi, he has just healed some folks. And it is that story where there is a man who cannot move, and the crowds are so vast and big that his friends love him enough to lower him down into the house from on high, who make a way for this healing. And Jesus tells him his sins are forgiven. Because in this culture, that is all connected. And then the religious leaders of the community start to get worried. They say he is blasphemy. He is using the word, the Lord, he's taking the Lord's name in vain. And he pushes back about the nature of this, that this is to bring a person into connection. And then there's this very curious moment where Jesus tells this man to take the mat that his friends brought him in on and go to the temple and pay. Make the offering for your healing. He says, tell no one, but go in there and show them what I have done. I just think it's this really brave moment, this strange, wild, weird moment. And it is a reminder to us that anytime when we hear these stories about healing, the miracle isn't in the structure or the strategy or the technology of the healing. The miracle is in the accessibility. Because it was part of the culture that you received healing in a temple, and not just the Jewish temple, but all of them. If you go to Athens, you can see these temple-like statues where people made a tiny statue of what was healed. So there's elbows sticking out and eyes and legs and limbs. The miracle of Jesus is that it is available and you didn't have to have your insurance card. And so Jesus tells them, go in and bear witness to this. And it is after this that the crowd is enthusiastic and confused and interested. And this is when he looks at Levi and says, follow me. And Levi just gets up, leaves his little tax booth, which I sort of imagine to be like Lucy, or a toll booth, like he's got a little setup. And he has a party. He has a party with all of his friends who happen to also be tax collectors. And it raises the question again and again about who Jesus is spending time with and how Jesus is spending time with them and why. Sometimes when we get into patterns of how we behave and how we gather and how we are present, we just fall back on old norms, sending the same invitations to the same people for the same thing, whether it makes sense or not. In her book, The Art of the Gathering, Parker says to think deeply about why we gather, about the purpose of it, the real root of what matters. And that maybe the same old guest list isn't meeting the needs of the day. Maybe the same old strategies don't get you to the real outcome and the real purpose of why you gather. Jesus will name to the religious political leaders that he has a different purpose for these gatherings. They invite new people and renewed people into community and to connection that were previously not included. And he asks us to do the same. These stories where Jesus invites Levi, it always ends with this great response. When the scribes are questioning that they are not fasting, that they are eating and drinking, Jesus says, "Do people fast when the bridegroom is present?" There is a reason to gather. There is a reason to gather, to eat, to drink, to celebrate, to connect, to rethink the why and the reason and the invitation list, and to be strategic and intentional about who is invited in a new way. May we have the courage to try it ourselves. May it be so. Amen.